maybe if we want to focus our attention on that, if you all want to join the Figma, I will try and share my screen, but probably I will get kicked or my browser will crash again, but let me try nonetheless.
And
if it does, maybe
I've been updating the Imaginarium side of the Figma, and so now it's no longer really a puzzle. It's more like a carnival that's connected to like what's going on, at least from my perspective. And then like to fill out the branches of like this like connected web that's like forming, I guess.
Yeah, I couldn't. Let's see. I'm on, and I'm still here. Cool. Hi, Matt. You made it too. Let you see as well. What fantastic. So, hello. Did you finish your finals finally? No?
Yes. Now I am free, sir.
Yay! Woo! Champagne. And Manuel's Andreas here as well. Cool. Well done. Okay, so basically, I'm in the TEC Consilience library. And let us refocus. Yeah, go ahead.
Just before we start, I have one confusion. So, what will be the user interface for this library's first version? So, I think we started with Notion, but there's ideas of creating a website, but I lost on that part. Like, so will this library be a live web development will be involved? Like, who will be developing the website or like UX, etc.?
Yeah. So basically, let's have an update on that. And I'm in the same time trying to put it actually on the process flow side. Steph has created a website.
Yeah, I remember that, yes.
Right. So, Steph, would you like to share a bit like what is the possibility there and what are the limits and what we would need to actually get to a website?
Yeah, sure. The thing is like, hello. I was like working on this as a kind of exercise to see a bit like the. Wait, I need to find a place. 1 minute. Yeah, I was working on this to find some kind of visual overview and get a bit like kind of structure, and I just wanted to see how those backgrounds looked. So it's just kind of an exercise. Then I sent a login. Basically, I made an email address on Proton Mail, but I sent this to, I guess, to Mert, to Letty, I think also. I sent like the login info to a few other persons. And to Bear also, because he wanted to go on, he wanted to make version 1, I remember. He said something that he wanted to play with like the design of it. Basically, the stack is in StackBit, so it's kind of a repository on GitHub. Interacts with StackBit, and then there's a second version that pushes it to Netlify. So the one that's on the Gauche website that is linked there is the one that's pushed into the Netlify. But that allows also for like new versions being pushed through StackBit, which can also be outputted. So there's like AB version possibilities. So that's kind of like our. I made a little flow chart of that process somewhere. I think I posted it, but like a long time ago.
Okay. I will ask you to link it here in this. So from your experience, do you think like that is more or less a static website, or you know, or
yeah, it's definitely a static one, and it was just to have an example of like a kind of visual thing. Would be easier to share than a Notion page, but it's very far from a dynamic website because I felt that there's much more experienced developers. For me, it was just an exercise to see if I could link what is on the Arweave. You know, like the backgrounds are on Arweave storage space. to link this to some kind of like cheap and easily fast accessible, shareable kind of tool. So that was kind of the exercise there.
Is the content on Arby?
Basically, the content is on GitHub, like the MD pages, like Markdown is in the GitHub repository, which you can access.
What is the connection to Arby?
Like where I put all the NFTs of all the blogs and those lines, like all the graphical work. So I was like, yeah, that's a bit heavy to store it on. I think GitHub is Microsoft now. Like I was like, yeah, maybe not put it all.
So I would say it's, since you have started it, and obviously the arts and the visualizations look definitely more beautiful on that website than they do on Notion. I would say so we could see whether we can connect everything that we want, and number one is like, what is it that we want and we want? We need to figure that out, and then we have the possibility to see, okay, what is missing to that website? How much effort would it be? Do we have the funding? We have 15K of funding. We could hire people. It would be wonderful if we have those people in here that can actually make it happen. But if not, we could also hire designer, developer. Also from within the token engineering community. So I think that's definitely making things go around. So there is definitely this website.
I'm doing the website for Gravity already in WordPress.
Okay.
So just FYI.
Okay. So number one, that's one area of activity that has happened. We have something, right? The other area of activity is the Notion repo prototype. Who would want to tell about the current state of that?
So the current state of Notion is actually exactly the same. Like we have the structure actually. Now we need what we wanted to add and also the curations. But since we have this new website mockup, I believe it will be much better to integrate into website than Notion, since it will be look more prettier. And also, as you said, we can hire some people, and it won't be like very hard project. Like it will be very basic website. So I don't think we need to hire like many people. One people can definitely can do it. Like we can help together do UX, etc. So I think Notion is kind of, I feel like, getting irrelevant, but let's keep it there. But from my perspective, it's better to focus on the website, and I would like to also help like with the UX and user flow in the website as well.
Okay, so basically, let's say that's done. Basically, we have it. No one is really continuing it, but we have it. Let's link that resources also in here. It was an activity. Let's see if it's finished or if we can use it or if we need to use it for some sort of content coordination or so. But let's go, let's move backwards. What we also did was the curation template. Okay, so I looked at it. Number one, I put it together. And then I shared it. Well, it helped us actually to get, support for the conviction voting. So it has done its job, but Zargam tried to go through it. He politely added a question. Then I tried to use it, and actually it sucks. So, and I would love that, candid feedback so we can move forward. The template sucks. It's a Google templates. It says you should be, maybe I'll share that too. And also, like, I'm sure others who have used it or tried to use it have feedback too. Like, if we don't get feedback, what are we improving upon, right? So, but let me share my feedback, and I would love to hear more. And then I'm definitely keen on hearing actually. Like what we want is so this is, if you remember, this is the first co-creation session that we did, and this is what came out, that the why we do this library and why it's going to be different, or why it is really needed, is because of the collective curations or the curations in transdisciplinarity. Everyone said we want this to be novel. That's the only reason we're going to use it. And the artist said, hey, we love novelty. That's what we're here for. And we said it is all about connections. Like that was something, for example, Nick, that is very important to you, that this library should really build connections, especially for newcomers, that they're not lost. They get to find their ways into this very complex area of token engineering and crypto economics. They get to connect to people. So all of this connection, we said, okay, guides. But then literally, like, who is going to be the guide? Like, who is the guide of crypto economics? Right? So literally, we even need to onboard the guides. Those who might be able to provide mentorship or what have you, literally are people who have waiting line of mentors trying to get some time with them, and there are also people, literally the projects that they say no to is amazing, because and it really breaks their heart, but that's how life is. So here again, if we could really innovate around how we could build connection, at the very least through the curations that those people provide, that will be most valuable. That would be fantastic. And then also during the curation, could those people actually who provide curation get also something from the process itself? Because again, that's what intrinsic motivation or reward is. You do something, and the pure act of doing it provides you with a reward. Right?
Yeah, I
One
think
second,
that's
I need
like
to
the
close
aesthetic we were lacking. That is expressly what you said. And I feel right now with the library, like the NFT discovery game is like the entry point. So I think this
Yeah.
was like we were talking about like 2 weeks ago, and having this self-discovery game as the entry point, and we have the archetypes. So you come here and you have, I think just 2 weeks ago, we talk about having like this little guide, and this is the guide you enter to this kind of curation, and you just discover your archetype, or you are playing, just to say playing, but you are in this kind of archetype game. So as soon as you come in here and you start curating with your archetype or with the curations you're doing, you start receiving incentives or rewards. So we start minting this kind of chapters or transmedia library. So we developed like the curation is inside this archetype game or framework. And I think that's the incentive to come here, just to discover these connections in this new transdisciplinary way.
So I have no clear controls. I have no clear understanding yet, but I can very well envision and imagine how it could work out. So
yeah.
I kind of. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, piggyback on that. When I was thinking about what everything was saying, is that like with me and Streamer D, we could, along with the website, build the first kind of like narrative in the sense, and that it's roughly 3 doors, and maybe I just use it as the symbols that I already have, and they're basically. When I redid your little thing, and all the players are on the board, right? The shaman is kind of the guide, the artist, systems thinker, coder, and beginner's mind. And so like we all start at beginner's mind, so we're all starting off as like the user of the first interface of like, okay, what's the first thing we kind of have to do is kind of like have to like realize what the new praise bot is, and the new praise bot, kind of like hooking up your Ethereum address to the thing, and then maybe kind of just like explaining kind of roughly really what token engineering is and what Omega is roughly about, and then you could explore the connections of like why the library and like why we're thinking about the library, and that's kind of like shooting you into the energy flow where it's about seeing where the energy of the whole system flows, and then like what's interesting of like these connections. And the creative one is going to be this more abstract stuff of the NFTs, of kind of like what we find already curated between us as meaningful, of some of the images that we already have, maybe some of the clips of our talks and stuff like that we curate and that we want to share with other people. And that would be like that bucket of where we kind of guide people to interact with what we're thinking and what we already have.
So tech is huge. Omega is Omega. If you wanted to actually get user stories and like what it is, how could that game be like, really focusing on token engineering consciousness library will make our lives easier. I want to do it in a way that it won't constrain the creativity too much at all. But actually, hopefully, it will be an enabling constraint in a sense. Like, if I would ask you to, let's work this really out, the self-discovery game just within the library. Forget tech, forget Omega for a second. There is this library that we committed to build, and the curators, we ask them, give your best curations, and as mentioned, like this template is too wordy. Like the curation profile, number one, it asks from me like, who are you? And I'm like, yeah. But for example, what if I did the curation first, actually just really share, and then this game motivates me to share more and more, because it actually then gives me feedback of, for example, where I stand, or I don't know if the archetypes will be coming out as something interesting, but what could I add in my curation that the self-discovery game could actually play with and give back to me as a curator. And that information, that synthesized or extracted information about the curation and the curator, is actually something that the visitors or the learners can use to find their ways through this. Am I making sense?
Yeah, and I think this is like what I was thinking too is for more of like the user experience of like pulling them into like the other side of participating in the library, so like even though I was just thinking about like the random person that like kind of finds their way to the library and be like, what the heck is this? And they start, interacting with it, and they're like, okay, what is this? And then they find their way into like the flower, but like the next thing they're knowing, they're joining, one of these random meetings and be like, oh, okay, I could like probably participate in this library. I could like, help make the connections, or like this is why it was meaningful for me to like read this one article that I read in the library, and this is why I kind of want to like participate in this game of. Because I think later, what you're talking about, it becomes this like meaningful dance of like, okay, the curator put this in there, but like some of us who are like working on like the art or designing the game is like, oh, this connects to something later that we were talking about in group, or like we're thinking on our own. Just kind of like what I said about the weird Aztec sacred narrative and how like it oddly fit the French philosopher. But anyways, like as we go along, that's part of the game, of which we have the NFT of why like actually my friend here within the vacuum is the one who did the artwork from my notebook, and like and this is like we haven't even really talked directly, like peer to peer. We've just been communicating, via minds and actually minds for like a long time. But anyway,
can you share? Can you share like what was the notebook and what visualization could you do from that?
Yeah, if you feel comfortable within the vacuum. Hey, what's up? How's it going? These the mic's mute right now. But
hey, within the vacuum. Okay. Sorry. Welcome. Say hello. I didn't see it.
Yeah. I know from my end, I shared two things from my notebook of what I've been like writing about from group, and one was a Sunflower Sutra, which is like the beginning of this poem that I write later, and then the other one was in the Valley of Novelty, which is like the beginning of this game. Okay, hey, what's up within the vacuum?
Okay.
How's it going?
Hello.
Hello.
Everything good?
Yeah.
It's nice to be here. I'm not very like familiar with this kind of. Honestly, it's my first time on the Discord meeting. But yeah.
Okay.
Well.
Okay. So Discord is new.
Yeah, it is new for me. But yeah, well, I'm a musician actually. I'm working in music since 9. So, well, it took me. Well, it's a journey, and it took me for many paths and different scenarios for creation. And well, this kind of art it's actually a game. Right, I'm just applying the same patterns I can see in nature. I'm from Costa Rica, so I have nature very, very close everywhere. So what I do is just to get into this mode of contemplation and see what's going on there, and that's what I am applying to this kind of art or this kind of experiment. I don't know what it is actually. So yeah, I started this project. I asked people on Minds if they want to join the experiments, so they can.
But I like to just add that was kind of random too, because I didn't really mention that I had the meeting, but I said, hey, you should join us on Discord when you got time in the last communication. So that was cool that he stopped by.
Yeah, I want to say like it's super nice. We have this transdisciplinary, like really getting here people from all walks of life, and we have like now musicians, artists. So it's like a real example of being transdisciplinary. I love this.
And also,
I'm also missing it, like the ease with which within the vacuum comes in. I was like, hey, I'm doing this experiment. I'm inspired by nature, and we don't know where it's going. Like, that's research. It's kind of what I've been missing so much. So that's why I'm happy.
I listen to the music part, not to the research part, but I think this is.
I know, but I'm like, okay, now we're gonna have a soundtrack to our research. So, but within the vacuum, we don't hear you. Maybe you have to reconnect. Yeah, that helps sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I think this diagram is useful still with the template. You say this sucks, but I think the diagram, this here, like having this kind of understanding of the different equations is still, we have to apply that in the research flow. Because we have the creative flow, we do that research flow, we can just incorporate this as well.
Yeah. So I think that transdisciplinarity, that's why I put this up like this, at the very least explains every other thing is quite subjective, and if you just ask them, okay, tell us something about yourself, it's good. Number one, like, okay, what should I tell about myself, like in this context and so on. It takes a lot of time within the vacuum. I don't know. Mic test. Yes.
Hi, I'm back.
Hi. Okay.
Sorry,
now it works.
So where I was, I can't remember. Well, I'm here mostly to learn and to help with whatever I can.
Cool.
I was telling about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was experienced here. Yeah, I live very near nature, and I just follow those patterns, and yeah, the idea is to create this collaborative art between people, and you can send me some trace, whatever it is, or a poem like Satori did, and I can create a symbol and a unique piece of mandala kind of art with it, and it's really funny. It's I enjoy it a lot. It's a bad day.
And you are in Web3. You are familiar with, or are you working, or are you within a token project right now, or are you looking in mines?
Well, not really. I'm just learning. I really don't know much about it.
All right. So that will be a test whether working and contributing to the token engineering consilience library with what you have is also going to give back to you some insights. I'm already looking forward to this experiment. So let me give you, like, I don't know if you were here in the beginning. I did the collection of, okay, we want to get resources from curators, obviously people who have started this transdisciplinary field of token engineering, crypto economics, really interesting people who have literally a lot of transdisciplinary know-how, they feel comfortable, and so on and so forth. Then people like me who came in later on and then also hit the ground running because so many things really resonate and we're onto something here. With Web3, this whole sovereign individuals govern well together. Like there's so many, so much potential in this. But anyways, getting the curation from the OGs, from people who've been a long time around, is really hard because of time and so on and so forth. And also, I literally thought I knew what I'm going to put in there, and having to choose a few of what you read or what has helped you, or figuring out which ones, is really, really hard. So I'm hoping that maybe we focused now on the core of this consilience library, which is this consilience space, and I hope this will now give you also more idea what is the terrain, because this is the core, like this transdisciplinarity, this is what we want to establish, and then maybe we can jam around, okay, how could we already use the art or use the input of the curators, infuse that with art, or create some emblems, symbols, some things that actually speak to people visually. We are audiovisual. Anything that captures. Yeah.
I think that the most valuable thing about this kind of, I don't know how to call it, like art, or is the way it is made, because it is following the same patterns I can observe in nature. If we could apply that to our systems, we will have a really good result, and a time for escalating whatever system we want to create. So I think that is the most important part of this kind of project, because you can create literally whatever. Like, it's an infinite possibilities with the same three movements, right? So it's which are it's just emerging, displacement and rotation, right? Is what we see in nature everywhere. All the systems are doing the same thing exactly. So I'm just copying nature, and it is also applied on my music, and is following the fractal
Yes.
pattern. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We're connecting here. So that's basically in all of Omega, or that is emerging, that we really want to figure this out, and we want to just have those points, as you say, that help in coordination, but let's the realm, which is transdisciplinary, which literally Web3 is in itself out there, is very chaotic, but it's also where systems are being redesigned, rethought, because the technology allows that. But then a horde of people are coming in and they're like, okay, let's do business as usual. And then we have this Web2 platform and platform businesses that suck out every participant, literally, out of this decentralized self-sovereignty giving and collaborative and cooperative potential. Literally, they go back to these platforms like OpenSea and so on. And one reason, like one obvious, there are many, but one obvious is that we just don't know how to handle agency anymore. Right? Crypto economics, token engineering is really, it still blows my mind, and I'm a computer scientist. I studied peer-to-peer protocol design, but still it has done something that Thomas Kuhn, Peter Drucker, they talk about this paradigm shift. You look at the same thing, but all of a sudden you can see something different. Not because the technology or what is there that you're looking at changed a lot, but actually your mindset also shifts. So literally, Omega is about what's this new mindset that we that we should go out and get ourselves. And it's just an intuition that the answer is out there in nature, and it's very natural. It's just we are coming out of this factory industry systems. Our education system, our entire organization is like factory lines, and all we learn or all we are optimized for is consumption. Work hard, play hard, and at some point, or no, we know where that leads, obviously. So with all these systems thinking, machine learning, blockchain, and the ability to actually connect with any people across the globe and jam creatively like we do here. This is now we're looking at the same picture, but we need a new mindset shift or a new mind, or maybe, as Satori says, mandala of minds, right? To actually make the best or make what we need out of this.
Could I
big,
say
huge.
something
But
more?
with the token engineering consciousness library, we have the opportunity to actually focus this potential onto a very concrete thing, a library. And all we want is not to do business as usual, not to come up with a list of curation people, their profile, why they're so great, or why the organization is so great, and why these are the best things that you should be reading, but actually really mesh it and mix it and exchange the essence, literally. Mull it over and over and over with every curation, with every person interacting with the library. With every edition, there should be a new signal coming in, making this interesting for others to connect. Sorry, Steph, go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of found it very nice what within the vacuum was saying. Like he mentioned these kind of three principles of nature, like emergence, displacement, and rotation, if I remember correctly. Immediately there, I started to see like what I had in mind with. We were talking about the navigation of this kind of website, like how to build it in this kind of 3D sphere. And then it was like technically becoming kind of difficult. So it was Blender or other things that we were looking into. And then it like, for me, it was like technically too overwhelming. And that's again what I see with this kind of like a collective curation template for persons that are encountering the material, or when my Chromebook gets like toasted on like memory loops from the Consilience Figma board of like, it's getting to this point where nature is too much to handle because it doesn't really, it proliferates. It has a kind of efficiency of proliferation. So then maybe to see these kind of three principles as a kind of a guiding or sort of navigation, which is always something in emergence. By emergence, it's displacing and it's in a constant rotation. So it constantly affects a perspective shift or a tilt. You can never really see the same thing twice. At the same time, it needs to be kind of workable. So maybe if it's this collective curation thing, I had in mind something like type forms, like yacht forms, where you just get one question at a time. You see like, this kind of survey kind of style, where you see something that appears, but you don't get the whole thing in once. Like you just kind of deal with little bits of information which are digestible. And then depending on those choices, it kind of navigates you through. Like I don't know yet, like I just see this as a kind of like possibility of working with a more simple form, which then allows for a huge complexity. That's
Sure.
I noted.
Sure.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and it's actually what is most interesting about that is the rotation is three-dimensional, right? It's like like a torus. So it doesn't matter how complex the structure gets, it always has a connection and has access to the emerging point of it. So yeah, it's a little bit like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's embedded because we have the fractals and we are just capturing all the points in the torus, in this toroidal structure. We have the information, right? Because it's fractal at the same time. So that's why we were visualizing these mandalas opening up with all the data points that we were missing, because there were not a structure to capture all these rotational points of view, which are embedded in the different minds which are in the archetypes. So it's like all like weaving together very nicely. Yeah.
So basically, we have a rough idea of, okay, there are these archetypes. Satori, you made 4, I think, and they resonate with another source that led you have to curate for the Omega curation. the what is it called again? This PhD work of this amazing
the future
woman.
roles or something like that.
Yeah, analysis.
Yeah.
PhD.
So exactly, like having this connection already, it's again some resonance we see there. So we have potential types, but then also we might see through curations and what people share actual types of people hanging around token engineering. So that discovery of like who are the people who are curating. So what should we ask from the curator, or during the curation? Even asking questions is already boxing in my view. Always like, how could we let that emerge? Like, if we ask them for some keywords, or what could we do such that the curator provides information that will help us, him or her, or the group of the curation, but also people who are going to use the consciousness library, to see what type of mindset is this coming from, this curation?
I would say like the first info data point from any curator has to come from their highest point of experience, or what energizes them from the very beginning. Like it's like the first higher point for them to share. And it can be like a music bit connected to this space. It can be like the NFTs, the mandalas, where we need to provide like a container, but it's the highest experience from the very beginning. You can hear with your opening. And that's
I
like
would start. Go ahead.
Yeah, another concept that I like is like art. It has like an order. It's first in expansion of consciousness, then it became science, and then it became art. I think it is about that. How can I go into the exploration of consciousness and be able to download that information? So yeah, I need to understand different aspects on how to translate sometimes these very abstract information, and translate and put it in something beautiful and be able to create something with it. So yeah, I think
What if we go ahead, Satori.
To piggyback on that point, it's like these are consistent with these emerging kind of like modes of the future of the NFT mandala, and it's about like that process too of like the unplugged state, which is like the whole possibilities, this cloud of possibilities, and then like what you do on yourself with your own work, whether the inner work, or even what you're researching, and how that connects later when you become part of like the group or whatever, when you engage with the whole of the connection in what we're thinking about for the modes. And so like this becomes like this exercise with your own self of like when you study, and then like having that metabolism to kind of like let it like ferment a little bit, and then when you come in together, then we start seeing those new connections. And like those connections, what we're talking about are the blank spots of what Letty refers to, of like both we give them the big picture of the flower, and we start to color it in, with our personal stuff of what we're talking about, what has been emerging in group. But then also too, these artworks are kind of to help fill in these spaces to make it connect to where this chart becomes like what the first image that I saw of Steph, of these threads that are connecting the full flower of the
Yes.
And that would be the connection.
Yeah.
Like
like the on the overlap.
Yeah, they visualize the yolk.
Yeah, that's really the idea of consilience. Like the whole idea of this kind of like green rain is the whole joke in the Matrix when you go through the mirror. So then you always have this matrix and these guys reading this code. So I saw kind of like the consilience lines of things connecting in a kind of like weird rainforest where you have all these kind of threads from the trees. That you could just walk through them and like pick up the information wherever you needed it. And that's kind of the idea of those things, but of course it looks different on a screen.
I saw them so late. but that was such, that's why I really am big fan of having this art and visualization and your interpretations of what we're trying to do here. It's just refreshing, number one, and number two, it's again, it's like a mirror. It gives you back that little, that those little messages are really highly super valuable. I just want to grab something out of this. So what if we commit to for the omega curation? I did that, like I have 3 things out of vast, really great stuff that helped me actually get in. I said get into token engineering, but then I said, okay, now I'm going to even focus it more. It's token engineering, crypto economics / omega, like we're creating for omega, and that helped me actually then to focus on the most interesting readings that really helped me to get a new perspective that I didn't have before, or where I was struggling, like where I had a blind spot, or not blind spot, but where it was hazy, I had no connections, but all of a sudden there's this book I'm reading and it makes sense, or it connects parts. One second, it connects parts that weren't connected before. And to be honest, like everyone who's been in the trenches in token engineering and crypto economics, we know we have to have beginner's mind. Because as said, like this is such a vast and such a dynamic space, and the systems that are being built out are highly dynamic, that some people are even on the more AI side of it, token engineers don't even start. We're gonna train algorithms because that's the only way. And actually, that was also my mental model at Siemens and so on. Data-driven optimization is far better than some engineers coming with their models. But then I didn't have the philosophy side at all, let alone art, like the creative. I do have a creative side, but it was sufficiently and successfully educated into the depths that I'm now exploring.
Do you mean your children?
Yeah, like Ada is absolutely free to go for, but I'm also, how do you call it? Letting my child out, my inner child out. So just maybe again, like for you within the vacuum, Satori, you have been in this a bit longer. I don't know, Steph, if you still have questions, but you could really ask.
Yeah.
Now, what is this about? And yeah, go ahead.
Like I have a few confusions on like, okay, we're curating, but for myself, I understand curating in the sense of like art, where you have this, I think it's Slavoj Žižek in the book, The Ticklish Subject, who makes a very critical response about what curation is. It inspired me a lot from like the practices that I'm working with. Basically, there the point of view of curation is that the curator is the anti-artist, because it's the person who validates the work towards the hegemonic ideology of the times. So it's not so much the work that is being existent. The curator is actually the person who serves the hegemony of the time to validate the artwork and to inscribe it in society. So it's a kind of very tricky role, because in the McCarthy regime or in like other times towards cinema, it always had like a very specific meaning. Nowadays also like curation can be a very dangerous tool. From my question is like, if we're curating, I always get a bit like uncomfortable because I don't know how to be a good curator, how to be politically correct and all these things. So my question then is like, are we asking other persons to put material into this library, which then is not yet clear what kind of existence it has? Like, what is the library? Like, where is it basically? Like, is it a physical place? Is it a digital object? What are those things? And if we're asking those persons, and if it's not really clear what it is that this thing is, how can we then also put our own material or the references, and what is the process of curation and peer reviewing? Like, who decides what gets into the library if we're kind of like putting things in there by ourselves? Like, do we burn books or not? You know, it's a big question. So, yeah, you know, like the generative art.
So short answer, the interesting answers to those will be in version 2, where we really could have curation games. Number one, yes, it's actually super important, like by deciding what is in the curation, by people making choices, etc. Obviously, there could be many other motivations and so on and so forth. But before we go there, now we have, for the start, to give people an example. What is this library? This is version 1 goal, right? What is this library? How it is being curated? Why is it novel? How does the transdisciplinarity comes about? And what is that about connection? Like, how are you connecting people to this subject that is transdisciplinary and so on? So in V1, this is what we want to figure out from people we know, but hopefully we will get into those difficult areas so that we can actually come up with simple, I don't want to say rules, but simple design choices that could be in the environment, meaning the UX of the library, but also in this curation template or the self-discovery game that we're doing. But how do we start? And also, again, who should be starting the curation? These seed curations should really come from people who have experience, because who have created or kickstarted this field, who have experience in the trenches, who literally have been struggling through all the petals of this cryptoeconomics flower and applying it or seeing it applied in the field, what that means and so on. Because only from those very strong signals will we be able to extract, okay, how could we play this, right? So in the first curation, we really want to have strong signals so we can say, okay, how can we play this?
Yeah, then like my main question is like, if I imagine myself to be someone like very expert in the field and somebody approaches me with, hey, you make wonderful music, can I invite you to play a song for an audience, record an album, you know, like very limited already existing things. Here we're dealing with a field that's new. So my question then is twofold, like, where do I build the space where I can have some kind of idea of what I can build on? If it's like a coding library, it's like where the functions are being defined, like really the basic library of a language. So that could be a kind of way of thinking about it, you know, like we all use the library to make English, but maybe this is the library where the words of English come into existence. This type of library, or is it also kind of possible to think of it as what I see what it's becoming is kind of like a thing on a screen with hyperlinks. I think there is like a very limited understanding of what Web3 is if it's just reduced to this kind of technologies. Maybe it's nice to think of the Figma as a resource to kind of translate it into functional code, because Figma has all those objects in code. See the code
Wait a
as
second. Wait. Sorry.
I'm just
Sorry.
trying
So
to think of like what is curation if we really think of what is a library.
yeah, but I really want us to get the curations out of people. Like we have an Omega curation, we will do this. Like Letty, I know it's effort, but I hope like literally just your best 3 or start with this one, please. And also just pour it.
Yeah, it's like the collective curation of Omega. So that's our nucleus. We have been here like thinking about this for a long time. So it's like this is the energy we are putting into this, like the first seed, and then we can grow from that. We'll see like the emergence of the mandalas, and we can just maybe for someone curating is just putting into a piece of music that is super relevant to ethics or philosophy, and it's like their way of expressing this, and it's like within an archetype of being in a beginner's mind, because TEC Omega can be anything, and it's like the high expression of interest. But we can have this nucleus that is our collective curation from Omega, and from there we see the connections emerging to the other petals of the mandala, and we decide what is like UX that can express this. Maybe it's like this.
Exactly. I would get the curation. One answer, Steph. I'm sorry. One answer to your question about if we do it collective. If there is a collective curation, there you have multiple people actually helping each other improve the curation or shape it. Maybe also give each other hints or give each other words or keywords or that type of connection inside a curation that could be already insightful for how are we going to express this in an emblem visual, and from that we can have an example of how does a curation for this token engine consonance library look like. It's a complete one, and
yes.
Exactly.
So
and then
it is a digital object. Like my question is basically before I understand the concept of a curation in the sense of like a person has some kind of knowledge or has another link to other persons or existing articles or sources of knowledge which seem relevant to Web3. And then this becomes like part of like something which can expand and has this kind of fractal nature and then has this kind of form. My question is like this form, which is a knowledge form, which involves persons and social links between persons. What's the medium of this? Is this becoming a digital object? Is it a physical item? Is it like printed on paper? Is it projected? Like what are these qualities? Because this hugely defines what the knowledge actually...
Yeah, and it connects. I see your point. I'm hearing you, and I see why you're asking this. And I think the ideal is try to connect those with our initiatives on the ground as well, like being humans connected in this realm as well. So you are like having this wonderful art initiative. So the ideal thing is connecting this to your Brussels laboratory. And if we are creating different things in our islands, the ideal thing is to connect this to the real world as well, in my view. Yeah.
Exactly. There's no limit to how we then make this experiential. Yes, the initial artifact is digital. We have the data, right? And that is accessible. But how do we then make the library experience? How do we go ahead? Like that, there again, we will have a huge push of creative flow, I guess.
The interface design, then the whole UX is like a question which is like way beyond like making something appear on a desktop screen, or like for me UX then
but the like right now we're talking V1. How do we get the curators actually give curation, and what do they get for their curation? Can that be part of a self-discovery game?
Well, something funny about it is that we are already connected by this system, this natural system. to me is more about self-discovery of how we are connected, like naturally, and how can we apply that into our systems, right? And well, it's like I was thinking about the 7 hermetic principles that you can find in the Kybalion, and when you take a look on it and you realize that the 7 hermetic principles is about how to create music, actually. Right? So you have the mentalism, the vibration, the correspondence, the polarity, rhythm, and cause and effect. The principle of gender is about how to create music, but from a different perspective. It's like from right, and it's also philosophical, but it's very practical at the end. Is not, it is philosophical, but it is practical, and it's the same with art. It's the same with art. We can apply that and create, like artistic. When you go out, I go out to the forest. What is impressive is that everything is art in there. Everything is perfection.
That's our art solution here. Like everything is art here. We have the equation as well. It's the universal equation of the love time. So everything the universe produces is art. So we have like the underlying assumption about this. It's beautiful.
I think too, as we start kind of going back to Steph's kind of initial like musing or point bringing up. Yeah. Is what I was thinking about with my own friend Curry and his pork truck. So he's using NFTs to fundraise for like actual physical truck, and like everything. And then thinking about it of what we're talking about in the energy dynamic group is like for him and his community, which is the same basic kind of motion and fluid of the energy. He wants to store his own local community energy and keep it there, right? And then as he expands this out, that's why I kind of wanted to talk to him. Is like he needs also these like NFT or these like badges for his distributors, and these NFTs, and even too if he builds it out where they're circulating whatever their token of choice. Now that energy and value is staying within their community as well, and that's like the building blocks of him building up this thing that he's learning from what we're learning here, but also to applying it in his own local community. And that is like the seed of the mandala that like everybody like should be like we later on like version 3 give to everybody. It's like this little starter kit. If you water it, it becomes a Tao, and then you color it yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah. But we got to start with that first little seed of our curation.
Yeah. So for the curations, we can really also add another enabling constraint, that to be super practical, really going through the curation, going through those books, etc. It shouldn't be textbooks. Not my favorite textbook in this alma mater. In this Ivy League college that I, got educated. So, but I think like that there should be a few enabling constraints so that we have a library that is really practical, that gets people into the super complex area. And what within the vacuum shared the 7 hermetic principles. I just wanted to connect back to that. There is this thing about polarities, and I wanted to tell that this even excerpt of cryptoeconomics is coming from an academic mindset, academic perspective, definitely, and it's full of polarities. So number 1 polarity is computer science and economics, like that is the cryptoeconomics definition, on both sides, on different sides, literally worlds that don't touch, barely touch. Actually, come together to create crypto economics, but then we realize it's actually about coordination and resource allocation, right? And there are many other disciplines to actually look at those big questions. How do we organize effectively? How do we allocate resources effectively, and not for profit maximization only, but for multitudes of values that humans are capable of valuing, but our market systems are not. We're trying to reduce the dimensions, that's what is being done, onto price, one signal. That is effective, goddamn very effective, but what it can only do is it can price commodities. So if markets get very effective, what they do is they turn everything into commodity. That's why commercial art and research that basically gives the current trend. You're not supposed to be researching what you are drawn to, but actually what gives you the third party funds for your chair, etc. So this is where we're at, and with token engineering, we can build systems that break from that siloed and for-profit machinery that commoditizes everything, has hyper speculation, and that's why it's really fragile, and it's getting more and more fragile. How can we actually bridge these polarities? And the third polarity is, again, the upper right side of this is engineering heavy. Computer science, control theory, systems engineering, operations research. Like, this is where you have data science, tools, processes, computer-aided design, and so on and so forth. Literally, there people ask for requirements. Tell us what you want to build, we build it. So on the other hand, we get literally, we have no idea. And that's why one huge trend is, okay, like, those people don't know what they want or what's good for them. People, why don't we just let the algorithms decide? That's literally the slippery path that we're definitely on. But on the other hand, we have the humanities, right? Philosophy, law, ethics, political science, governance, psychology, decision science. And as you see, a lot of it is also missing, but maybe one can put it into philosophy. And what we did is actually put art, imbue this whole thing with art. That's the goal. But what I wanted to say is, like, these polarities, the transdisciplinarity or the consilience library is about actually finding unity in that diversity, without putting any one discipline forward. When we started the idea about the curation for the library, it was basically people, I studied political science and I have great books, and I put them there. Like, literally, we had one person taking care of one petal, and obviously that is not helping with getting into this the green meshed areas and more of those meshes. So again, whatever we do, and just this session, I had definitely some more insights, and thank you for the new input and impulses as well. That we can definitely. Hello. Family wants me back.
No, never.
So I need to jump in a couple of minutes.
Nein, wirklich.
Yeah, okay.
Alles
okay.
gut.
Okay, they let me. So good. But I wanted to say that what I'm taking is definitely, don't just put a blob of a template out there and say this is it. We just try in our thread that we start our own curation, and when we do this own curation in the thread, let us just exchange about, okay, what is coming up, ideas, music, whatever, like that. We put anything that resonates with the curation, with the resource that we're sharing, why it is transdisciplinary, why it helped me to make sense of what, so that we get these subjective insights out there. And maybe if you can hang around in that thread, maybe you can share more more impulses within the vacuum and Satori. So from what Steph had shared, then basically from our own curation in the flow and with the impulses that we get, one way is we are figuring then out what to ask or what to pose as questions or as screens that the people who curate share or go through this sharing.